on the short list for vice presidential running mate for John McCain. But right now we're joined by two other influential politicians. The New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, he's an independent. He's joining us from our studios in New York. And joining us in Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania governor, Ed Rendell. He's a Democrat. Thanks, gentlemen, very much for coming in. I want to get to presidential politics and all that in a moment, but I know the two of you, a Democrat, an independent, both of you are teaming up with a Republican, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California, to try to do something about the nation's infrastructure right now. And Mayor Bloomberg, I want you to give us the bottom line assessment. Why are you doing this? What's going on?
Well, the country stopped investing in infrastructure. If you go back, Jefferson invested in canals, opened up the West. Roosevelt invested in public works, brought us out of the Depression and gave us the infrastructure we needed for decades. Eisenhower built the interstate highway system. That carried this country. Since then, public works have become pork barrel things, and Ed Rendell really deserves all the credit for this. Arnold Schwarzenegger and I are just so thrilled to be joining him, but it's his genius, it's his drive that has gotten this going. We've got to make Washington understand that if we don't make the investments now, no matter how tough they are, no matter how politically unpopular they may be, we're just not going to have a society for our kids and grandkids.
Here are some statistics we've compiled, Governor Rendell. Nearly half of all the bridges in the United States will exceed their lifespan in 15 years. 1 in 4 of our bridges is rated as deficient. More than $140 billion will be needed simply to repair these bridges. And rising costs prevent the states, like Pennsylvania, from maintenance and construction. Here's a question I asked Senator Levin and Senator Cornyn about this just a little while ago here on Late Edition. At a time when the U.S. is in such desperate financial straits, needing to repair infrastructure like roads and bridges, and the U.S. taxpayer is still spending billions in Iraq to do infrastructure development there, and they have a huge oil budget surplus, $80 billion sitting in banks right now. What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me, and I don't mean to be political, but what Senator Obama's been saying is correct. We are robbing our future by spending the amount of money we're spending in Iraq and letting the Iraqis off the hook. When that figure came out, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. We have challenges. The mayor is absolutely right. We're in danger of becoming a second or third-rate economic power if we don't turn our attention to our infrastructure. And it's got to be done. It's an economic issue. It's a public safety issue. Just a week and a year ago, you saw what happened in Minnesota. Pennsylvania leads the nation in structurally deficient bridges. Wolf, I've gone from $250 million a year to over $1 billion a year, and we're barely making a dent. We can't get there without smart federal intervention and good federal money distributed in the right way, not politics, not pork barrel.
I know there are a lot of old bridges in New York City. I've gone over them many times, Mayor Bloomberg. They seem to be pretty right now, but I want your reaction to what a lot of Americans see as an outrage that American taxpayers are spending billions and billions of dollars on bridge reconstruction in Iraq, but at a time when that funding could be used right here in the United States.
Well, I don't think it's an either-or. We may have foreign policy concerns and obligations overseas. I'll leave that to others. What we have to do is to focus on our domestic infrastructure. And in New York, we've reached into the taxpayers' pockets, and we've been fixing up all the bridges with our own money. But we can't continue to do that, and other states may not have the wherewithal, even if they had the will to go and do it. And it's not just the bridges that are substandard and getting worse where we're not maintaining them. We aren't building the next set of bridges for an increased population and a different kind of technology and different living places and patterns and transportation kinds of things. It's our airports that can't handle the number of flights. It's choking our economy. You can't have a worldwide economy unless people can come and go.
Mayor Bloomberg, and I'll let Governor Rendell weigh on this in a second. I know what his answer is going to be. I'm not sure I know what your answer is going to be. When you look at these two presidential candidates right now, who's got a better plan dealing with the nation's infrastructure?
Well, I think they've both said that we have to have better infrastructure, and they've basically left it at that. It's a promise of motherhood and apple pie. What I've wanted to hear from both of them is how they pay for it, what we can't have if we invest the money in this. That's a hard question to answer, but one the public has a right to know, and how they'll bring Congress along, because in the end, it is a Congress, both sides of the aisle, as well as both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, that have to be together. And Congress, in some senses, is even more important. President can provide a vision, but it's Congress that's got to vote the money.
We're going to speak to Governor Charlie Crist in a little while, the governor of Florida. I know he'll have a different answer, but what I hear the mayor saying, Governor Rendell, is he's still not satisfied with what your candidate, Senator Obama, is proposing.
Well, Senator Obama's proposed an infrastructure bank funded with $60 billion of public-private money, and that's a good start. And the infrastructure bank's important because it gets it out of pork barrel politics and has a group of experts determine which are the most cost-effective and the most needed federal projects. So I think Senator Obama's idea is a good idea. Doesn't go far enough. Interestingly, Wolf, the $10 to $12 billion a month we're spending in Iraq comes to about $140 million a year. The American Society of Civil Engineers says we could repair all of the American infrastructure, all of the things that Mayor Bloomberg talked about, water and wastewater systems, passenger rail, freight rail, for about $1.6 trillion in one shot. That $10 to $12 billion a month, 144 a year, that's the debt service. If we had a federal capital budget, that's the debt service on a $1.6 trillion infrastructure repair program over the next 5 years. And that's going to put more people to work than anything Washington's done.
The recent CBS News poll of Mayor Bloomberg asked independent voters for their preferences in the presidential race right now. Very interesting. Obama got 40%, McCain got 40%, 16% of independent voters, and you're an independent right now, undecided. Are you surprised that these two candidates are sort of equally dividing the independents out there?
Wolf, I'm not surprised at all. I think both candidates really are principled people who have experience and want to take this country forward. Both have ideas, but I don't think the public understands where either is going, or at least how they're going to get us there. And I thought Ed's right. Obama's $60 billion bank is a great idea, but how are you ever going to get Congress to give up the right to bring home goodies to their states or to their districts? That's the great challenge. And one of the main things that the president has to do is to lead Congress. And if you're going to vote for one candidate or another, one of the things that should be at the top of your checklist is who would be the better person to do that. And I don't know the answer to that. I'll make my decision before I get to the voting booth.
Senator McCain, Mayor Bloomberg, he says that this pork barrel spending, the so-called earmarks, that's right at the top of his agenda. And he says he'll veto any spending bills that has this kind of spending in it.
Well, I think John McCain has said this for a long time. He's been on the right side of this issue. But saying you're going to veto a bill is easy. What do you do when the things you don't like is tied to something that we have to have? And that's the typical thing that Congress does. They keep the president from being able to pick and choose which things to veto and which things to not veto. And we've got to find a ways to get out of that paralysis that this partisanship in this country has forced on us. Other countries are investing and building infrastructure when we are not. And I'll tell you one quick story. I had dinner with the ambassador of the United Nations from one of the Emirates, and all he talked about at dinner was how his country was making investments so they won't be dependent on foreign oil when the oil in their country runs out.
Good point. Governor Rendell, as a former chairman of the Democratic Party and as a former supporter of Hillary Clinton, now a supporter of Barack Obama, how do you feel about this notion of having a formal roll call at the Democratic Convention in Denver in a couple of weeks in which Hillary Clinton's name would be put in nomination?
Well, I think that's for Senator Clinton and Senator Obama to work out, and whatever they work out is satisfactory to us. As a Clinton supporter, I think most of us, 95% of us, have made the transition, and we're anxious, enthusiastically supporting Senator Obama. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. But would a roll call be productive? I'm not sure. Would it be destructive? Absolutely not. We all know Senator Obama will win the roll call.
She says it would be a catharsis.
Well, it might be a catharsis for some of us. I mean, in Pennsylvania, as you know, Wolf, we worked pretty hard to win the state for Senator Clinton, but we'd be just as happy to cast all of our votes for Senator Obama. Whatever the two of them decide, we'll stick with.
We're out of time, but a quick question, Mayor Bloomberg, have you decided who you're going to vote for?
No.
I didn't ask you who you were going to vote for. I just asked if you decided who you were going to vote for.
I heard your question.
And so you're still undecided.
I have, Wolf.
I know you have, Governor. Thanks very much. All right, guys, good luck with the infrastructure. The country needs all the help it can get right now.